Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this third webinar here for Brightspace at UCT. And if possible at all, I want to ask if you're comfortable just to briefly just show, just to access your video so that we can just quickly say hi to each other, get a sense of there's some people in the room. Always lovely to see people. Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to see you all. Alicia. Yes, I hope you managed to have a good lunch and that you are not just in back-to-back meetings, as we sometimes do, these marathon sessions, and taking care of yourself in between as well. Today, we have 3 tools that we're going to discuss with you, and these tools specifically focus on managing student progress. And I'm going to share my screen. If you guys can just let me know if you can see my screen, that would be wonderful. And today the 2 presenters that you have with you, it's both myself and my lovely colleague Mashudu, also from SALT. And Mashudu is going to take us through the demonstration today. She is very technical orientated and we are in good hands. I'm very excited to be presenting with her. Thank you, Mashudu. Great. Okay, without further ado, managing student progress, we will also keep an eye on the chat. The session is recorded. If you want to ask questions in the chat throughout the session, you are welcome to. Please also feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions at any stage. The whole purpose of this is for you to get familiar with the Brightspace community and with a platform, and for us also to understand where it is that you are at. And it's very important also to note that people are at various stages at this stage, and some people are already quite comfortable in using Brightspace, whereas some people maybe are touching it for the first time this week. And I hope you've had lovely sessions on Monday and Tuesday, and that you are really getting a sense of getting closer to the goal that you're aiming at in terms of your Brightspace migration and the courses and what this platform is going to offer to you in your teaching practices. Maybe just briefly in the chat, if you would want to just give us some indication, have you looked at Brightspace yet? Have you maybe opened your sandbox, or have you built courses already? Just so that we can get a sense of where you're at in this journey with us. And while you are busy doing that, I just wanted to say welcome. I chose this picture on purpose because we are about to enter Brightspace, and I just want to give you a warm welcome to the session and to the platform in general. Some of the outcomes today, as I said, we're going to focus on 3 tools specifically. The first one coming up is the Classlist tool to access certain Brightspace features. So the Classlist, you can access certain features from there, such as sending emails. We can also track a student's progress, and we are going to look at how to create or how to access a user progress summary that's available in Brightspace. And lastly, we're also going to look at the creation and how to use checklists. Yes, okay, so someone said played a little in the sandbox, attended the other webinars this week, but not much yet. Okay, it's a good place. This is the time for this. Opened my sandbox. I'm very basic playing around. It's a good start. Tinkered with bits of content, nothing nothing broken yet. Yes, and at least when something breaks, it's not that difficult in general to fix if you know how to or know who to ask. I suppose that is the key 2 things that you need in the knowledge industry. Is that not the case? So I'm happy to see that you at least managed to dip your toes in the water as well. Attended the other webinars. I just also want to say there's some more communication. You will receive another email this week with next week's webinar links, and then also a schedule at the bottom if you would like to plan for some of the sessions in your diary. We understand that it's difficult for you to manage your teaching load with your research. I want to say responsibilities, so just to make it a little bit easier for you. And these webinars will run well into to the end of June, so that almost every day there will be a session except for Fridays. And next week is also a little bit different because Thursday is a public holiday and Friday, we assume most people would not want to attend webinars if they are working on their day, if they're not taking a long weekend. Great. So again, just a disclaimer, please expect changes. And when I say changes, literally in your sandbox sites, if something gets pushed through from SILT site, the changes would also reflect in your sandbox. In general, you know, when courses are live, we won't do those type of things unless we have given people notification thereof. So please don't let that give you any anxiety whatsoever. It's just a case at this stage we are still experimenting. We are really trying to find the best use cases for the UCT context. Again, Brightspace name will change, and as soon as that is gone, then we will call the platform by its new name, and the Brightspace will most likely fall away entirely. And then Desire to Learn, again, that's just the company, that's the product owner of Brightspace itself. If ever you hear us making reference maybe to other resources. And then your sandbox, I imagine everybody in this room already have a sandbox, and then that's not going to be your teaching site, but you can start building things on there, which you will be able to copy over to your actual sites when that is ready. Flow of training, I said, please feel free to ask questions at any stage, and please open your sandboxes, follow along in your environment. It's very important just for you to literally get there, make those clicks, see what happens when you click, what opens, and maybe sometimes it would differ to what you see on the screen, and then you are also welcome to ask us questions of that. Could be depending on the role permissions or, yeah, so please follow along. Just another waterfall exercise that I have for you. I love these waterfall features, so please excuse me for having a different one in every webinar. I just want to pose to you in your teaching practice this year, in the past, what are the things that, or how do you and have you managed student progress in your teaching practice? How do you keep track of student progress, I suppose would be the question. So feel free to unmute yourself, or please just respond in the chat, and the waterfall, just hold to your answer for a brief moment until I give you the go ahead, and then we can all just submit our responses simultaneously. Just going to give a moment for everybody to type their answers. So again, how do you manage student progress, or how do you track student progress on your courses? I'm going to count down for us. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are welcome to post your answers. Formative, summative assessment, yes. Tutor feedback, that would be interesting. I wonder how that tutor feedback, is it verbal feedback that they provide? Do they maybe write reports, Excel spreadsheets? Okay, Excel sheets. So it seems like these things live outside of the platform, right? You are creating additional documents, tracking attendance and marks. Yes, okay. OneDrive. Great, thank you for your answers. So Brightspace offers us 3 tools that we can use to manage student progress. And today we're quickly going to introduce you to them. These tools are not available to all the roles on Brightspace, and with good reason. It's very similar to what you've seen on Vula in terms of the permissions. So your lecturer, the support staff, administrator, your tutor, and the designer roles. The designer is mainly people at SILT at this stage. But those progress tools, the 3 progress tools would be the class list, for example, and we do not want all the students to see the whole of the class list. We only want them to see something that's pertaining to them as an individual. And so the students won't see that, and read only also won't be able to access these 3 tools. Why do we track student progress? Well, first of all, we want to view user profiles, and we want to be able to communicate. If we see something and there's either discrepancy or we are finding that students are falling behind for whatever reason, we want to communicate. So first of all, identify that group of students and also be able to communicate with them. There are several options in Brightspace, what we call indicators that you can use to track user progress. I've listed them here for you. So the different indicators of performance. The first one is system access. That's like literally have they opened Brightspace within the last 30 days. So that's a very high level type of indication. Logins could be one. Content completion, how far have they, progressed through the modules that you have set up, or the units. After yesterday's lesson, webinar, you should be a little bit more familiar with that. Quiz performance, specifically indicating the results on quizzes, grades, assignments, checklists, have they completed the checklist or not, and then discussions. So there's also a place within Brightspace, and we're going to show that today to you, how you can actually view progress reports based on these indicators. And then for further consideration, this is not a tool that we are discussing today. I just want to mention it and put it on your radar. There is a tool in Brightspace that is called Intelligent Agents, and you could use an intelligent agent, and that's an automatic setting that you can set up with certain preset configurations in terms of if I want to, let's say a student have not logged in for 10 days, the system would flag that, and then there's an automatic email that can go out to the students, and you can decide whether you want to receive an email or not. If you have huge classes, usually we advise you not to receive the email itself. The system will literally send that out, but that's a tool that will be discussed in more detail a bit later. I just wanted to say that the tools that we are discussing today does not function in isolation. There are other tools that work in conjunction with it to really create a better student experience, but also from you on the lecturer side to make your life easier in terms of how you handle and manage the student progress in your course. Yes, I see site statistics. Yes. So the statistics very important, and that's also speaking to the progress that you're going to see in the tools that we show to you today. Okay, so the three tools, as I said, checklist, class progress, and class list. And this is the point where I'm going to hand over to my colleague Mashudu, and she is going to demonstrate these tools to us in a Brightspace training sandbox. And I would encourage you to please make sure that you have opened your sandboxes at this stage. And if you have any questions, as I said, please put them in the chat. I'll manage the chat and I'll alert Mashudu if there's a question maybe that you didn't feel comfortable asking, or otherwise just feel free to unmute yourself and participate in this webinar. Thank you, Mashudu.
All right, thank you, Nadine. I think you need to unshare your screen so that I can also, yeah, thank you. And hello, everyone. My name is Mashudu, and I'll be taking you through the demo side of this webinar. And I'm just going to quickly share my screen before we begin. Nadine, please confirm that you can see the Design Studio.
We can see.
Page. Awesome, thank you. All right, so today, so I'm going to be showing you the three tools that Nadine has already talked about that you can use to manage your student progress on Brightspace. So, and that is Nadine has already mentioned class list, class progress, and the checklist. So I'm going to start off with the class list, and this will be, so I think I'll allow you guys some time in between, so I'll pause a bit to allow you some time to also navigate through your Brightspace sandboxes. So to start off, in order to access your class list, right now I'm in the Design Studio course landing page. So you need to go to your nav bar there, you need to go to course info, and that is where the class list is. and then click on class list. So I doubt you'll be able to see any activity there since there are no students in your sandboxes. But for some people who might have added people or students, they'll be able to see their list over there. So a class list has various tools. You can add participants, you can view enrollment statistics, you can send emails as well. So I'm going to take you through each one of these as we go during this webinar. So I will start off with how you can add participants in your course. So first off, you click on participants, and then you can use the either add existing users or import users from a file or your computer. This tool, importing users from a file or computer, is very, very new and we are still researching it. So at the moment for this webinar, I'll show you how to add existing users so that you can start adding yourself or your other email address, for example, as students, to just have a feel of what students would view or how the students' view would be like of the course. So you will then go click on add existing users. And this is what the page will look like. Now, there is an option here to change or to select various roles. As I think by now you've already know that there's a lecturer role, support staff, tutor, students, and read-only roles. So you can, as you add your users, you can decide as to what role you want to add them in. This specific tool here helps if you're adding multiple users. So in this case, I'm going to search for Mashudu. And what will happen is that it will show me all the Mashudus that have been added to the Brightspace platform already. So these are not people that, these are likely, this is my student account that has been added in, and this is someone that has also been added into the Brightspace platform. But people who have not yet been added to the Brightspace platform, it's not going to be possible for them to be added in this manner. They need to be added in first by admin and be recognized as UCT, like people that are registered on Brightspace at UCT. So then what you would then do is that you'd select that person or multiples of people if you are adding in a number of people, and then you can select the role that you would like to add, that you'd like to allocate to them in the site, and then enroll selected users. Now up here at the top, this is now in a case where you are adding more than one user, let's say it's multiples of people, this is where this then becomes useful, because then you can just say that all the users that you are selecting should by default be either one of these roles that you will decide. Then you can also tick the send enrollment email, where that particular user will get a notification email to say that they are being invited to join a site. There's also an option that where your participants can get an email to say enroll, that they should enroll to a site, but that is something that is available on request. Specifically, if, for example, there is a short course that you would like to run and you want participants to just want to send out this invitation and have people sort of self-enroll, then that option is available only via request. So that is how you would add participants. So there are also some search options there, so you can decide as to whether you wanted to search by first names or just the last name, or the org-defined ID, which this would be either the staff number or student number if they're a student. And ideally just tick everything so that you don't end up filtering out something that you might, some names out, or I think it's just better to just have it all ticked so that you can have maxima, so that you can have like a broader response or a broader list. And then this by default will enroll people that are already existing in the organization. You also have an opportunity there to select the search type. So what this has is that if, for example, I'm searching for Mashudu, or there's a student whose name you don't quite know, but maybe their name start with a mesh, then you can filter it out to say it should start with, or pick the exact match if you know exactly who that person is. But ideally use the contains button, because then it gives you again a broader like search as to, I think the start with and the exact match might be a bit limiting, that you might not be able to it might filter out some people's names. So that is how you can add participants. I don't know if there are any questions at this point before I proceed. So in order to go back to the class list, I'm simply going to click on cancel, and it should be able to take me back to that page where we have the class list. I don't know if there are any questions at this point. Okay. So I'm now going to go into...
Sorry, Mashudu,
yeah.
There are some questions in the chat. If I can just read, the one says, if you want to add an external examiner as, say, an observer, how would you do that?
So they would need to be added in by admin. So that would be managed by SILT before you can add them in as a user on Brightspace. But there is an option that allows them to enroll or self-enroll, but that is available on request, again, as I said. So I think a request could be placed with SILT to say, I would like, an external examiner to be able to, self-enroll, or if you have multiple people. But I think ideally a request to say this person should be added as a Brightspace user, and then you can then add them onto your site. I think that would be the best option.
Yes. And then there's another question that says, will Brightspace have a guest user option like Ruler at some point? I can speak to that. The team is currently investigating what the most seamless integration for that option would be. So at this stage, for the pilots, and for the early access, we are using UCT accounts only, but the guest, I want to say the guest account login is on their priority list, and I know that they are working on that. I've spoken to one of the LTs earlier this week with a question of my own. So because we know external examiners, there are students from other institutions that maybe also needs to be added. So I want to say that one is still in progress, and we'll have a more detailed approach at a later stage.
Awesome. Thank you, Nadine. And so I'm going to move on to the enrollment statistics tool. And what this does is that it's a feature that allows you to see like a summary of the users according to their roles. You can see which users are enrolled in your course, how many are students, how many are facilitators. You can also see the students that have withdrawn from the course or that have been withdrawn from the course. And by scrolling down, you can see the number of students or the specific details of the students and specific names, emails and everything of the students who have been withdrawn from the course. So I'm going to go back to the class list page. And in order to do that, I'm going to click on done. And by doing so, it should take me back to that page. Now, another feature that the class list has is it has, like, you can send an email using the class list tool on Brightspace. And you can do this in two ways. So there is this email class list button here. And then another method is you can do it using this button over there. So I would say I prefer using this method here, the button over here. And I'll start off by demonstrating how to send an email using this button. So how it would work is that you would send a search for the name of a student. For example, I'll search for a Kef, and I want to send an email to this particular student. So I will select her her name, and then click on email. That is how you can do it. It will show you this pop-up box where you can type an email address, a subject, and it has the normal formatting tools that you have on Brightspace. You can upload a file, you can record either a video or an audio, or even choose an existing file within Brightspace. So that is the first method. Another method is that you can also, by clicking on the drop-down arrow there next to the name of a student, there's another option there to send email, and it would work in the exact same way. So the third method is using this email class list, which is slightly different to the one I've just demonstrated. So how this would work is that you would search for a particular student. So in this case, you can't just select over there. So you would have to search a name of a student. And then in this case, you have to be particular about that exact name, because as you can see, I just searched for Catherine and there were 3 Catherines that showed up. But now if I say send email, it will send this email to all the 3 Catherines. So this tool is a bit, I think I'd prefer the other previous method where you can just go and select that particular person that you want to send an email to. So in this case, you have to know the exact name of the user, and then send the email to that particular person. So now I have I've now identified her, and then I can send email. It will show this exact same pop-up box. Then that's how you can then send your email. So as I said, I think I would prefer, or we would encourage just using the class list, because then it's easy. You can just click on the name of a student, email, and then it's pretty much straightforward. So that is how, those are the 3 sort of options that you can use to send an email to students. You can also select, if you would like to send an email to the entire class, you can click on that first line over there to select the entire class list. Then click on email, the email button. You would then be able to send an email to the entire address book. That is how it would work. So Brightspace also allows you to print. There's a print button. It allows you to print either the entire class list. So if you select the entire class list and say print, it will allow you to produce like a PDF document with all the names of your participants. And that's how you can then print it. If you want an Excel version of your list, you can do that via the gradebook. Unfortunately, at the moment, the class list doesn't allow exportation into an Excel document. You can also just select a few students. If you just want a list of specific students, you can use the same tool, click on print, and it will generate a PDF with a list of those specific students.
Mashudu?
Yes.
There's a question. Once you have added participants, are you able to remove them?
Yes, that's now where I'll be talking about the enrollment and the unenroll button. So you would be able to do that. So the enrollment button, this is where you can change the roles of individuals. So you have to, let's say I want to change the role of, I'm just going to select a random person and then click on the enrollment button. You have to select specific people. So either a number of people or one individual in order to go into the enrollment button or use the enrollment feature. Then in here, that is where you can now change the role of that individual. So you can also unenroll them from this, for using this tool, the change enrollment settings. There's also the unenroll button where you have to select the name of a person. If you want to enroll a specific participant, then click on the unenroll button. And then before you do so, there'll be like a little pop-up box to sort of ask for confirmation as to whether you really want to go ahead and unenroll that specific participant. So that should answer the question. Are there any other questions, Nadine, at this point?
Sorry, trying to unmute. No, not at this stage. Unless
Okay.
there's something from anything from the floor.
All right. So I think you can see just that overall the class list is a convenient way of pointing out information or showing information about students in general. So the class list on Brightspace, you're able to, there's like a little flag feature over there. So if there's a student that you'd like to flag, you can just click on the flag next to the student's image, and it will sort of keep that on there. There's also, students can upload their profile pictures, and you as an academic, you're able to see pictures on the class list as they appear for the people that have, there's some people who do have profile pictures. This is different from what it looked like on Vula, where you had to click on a separate pictures tab in order to see the pictures. But in this case, you can see the pictures will be there lined up next to the name. Then you'll have the last names and the first name. Then next to the name, there's a little drop down arrow that I used to show earlier on that you can send emails, but you can also on this on this function or this feature, you can view progress, that the particular progress of that student, and you can view group enrollments, you can view blog. These two features we are still currently still assessing and working on. In this webinar, I'll demonstrate how to view progress. So you can see that it also shows the org defined ID. So this would be a student number in the case of students, and if it's a staff member, their staff number, the roles. It also shows their last access date, and this only shows within the last 30 days. Within the last 30 days, I believe. Okay, so I'm going to now go into student progress. Before we move
Mashudu?
on, one is, yes.
Sorry, there's a question. Will we see the pictures as per the student card database, like on Villa, or only those who add a profile pic?
I'm actually not sure about that. That is a very good question. I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, we had to, I think I had to add my profile picture, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, now I can't even remember whether I added mine or whether it was generated automatically, because it's the same picture. Yeah, I think we'll find out and get back to you on that one. It's a great question.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if it generates by default from the database, from the student card database. So one thing that is also important to note is that if you want to check like how many students are online at a certain time or specific time, you can do so by, the indicator will be like a little green dot. So I can see that this particular user is online at the moment. Unfortunately, we are still trying to find a way that we can generate you know, a little, where you can get like a little summary of all the users that are online, and or some sort of filter where you can be able to determine that. But at the moment, unfortunately, it's just sort of scattered all over, that you will be then able to just check as you browse through the class list which students have a green dot and which students are online. So I'm now going to go into the view progress tool. So next to the student's name, you click on the drop down arrow and then click on view progress. Now what this does is that it has it gives like a summary of the students, like the participants' progress summary. It pertains like things like the grades, content, like the pages that they visited on the site, and the topics that they've visited. Like it will show you specifically the modules that they've visited. It will tell you exactly which activity or which learning activity they clicked on. And there is more on which discussions they participated in, assignments that they've handed in, the quizzes they've completed, and a summary of the checklist that they also have been ticking or that they completed. And also the surveys, and as we said, the course access, which records the number of visits within the last 30 days. So that is what the progress summary looks like. Now you can, if let's say there's some items here that you don't necessarily feel are a priority for your course, you don't really want to know about surveys, for example, what you can do is you can also customize this this list and you do so by clicking on the settings button. So if you go to settings, you can go in and tick the stuff that you feel is not really necessary for your course. And you can also track, you can change this, edit this, and track like their performance using like color indicators according to what you want there. So you can also do that to track their performance. So that is how you would customize or make changes to the kind of the kind of like the list of what you want to see in terms of their progress. And then after making your changes, you can just save and close. And then whatever it is that you've unchecked will be removed from that list over there. So that is what you would do in the progress summary. I don't know if there are any questions, Nadine.
No, nothing at this stage.
Okay, so we are now going to proceed to the class progress tool. And this is found, if you go to the nerve bar, you have to go to course info. And then you will locate the class progress tool. This is what the class progress tool looks like. It gives a nice layout that helps you track your students' performance across the entire class. So you can see over here that it has been done through 4 indicators: the system access, content completed, quizzing, and grades. And just as we did in the class progress, what was it, the class list just now, in the previous thing, just as we've done, you can also customize these indicators that you have over there. So if you want something different, I'm just going to go in. So at UCT, we have 4 indicators. I mean, we have 8 indicators, and by default, you will see that you will have 4 on your site. But you can change this by clicking on, like if, for example, I want to replace this system access, you can go to that drop-down arrow over there next to the name system access last 30 days. You can click on that drop-down arrow and then say replace. And then when you replace, it will show you as at UCT as progress indicators that you can use. So these include assignment performance summary, checklist completion summary, discussion participation, survey completion. So you can then select the one that you want. So I'll just select the assignments one. And then as soon as I click on save and close, you will see that the system access has been removed and it has now been replaced by assignment submissions. So you can customize it in that way. You can also reorder or sort of organize these indicators by clicking on the drop-down arrow next to the name of that indicator, and then you can say move down. This will move that indicator to the next level or to the next column on the table, and that is how it will look like. So there will be a webinar where the use of agents to automate feedback will be discussed, but this is where you can have access to that as well. So that is what the class progress looks like, and those are the features or functions that it has. So I think right now, I don't know if there are any questions before we move to the checklist, Nadine?
Nothing in the chat?
Okay. Okay, something that I just want to say before we move on is that by hovering your pointer over the different sort of links there, some information can pop up to give you like a short, quick visualization of that specific indicator. So in cases, I think the access history would show a little graph that would pop up there if you hover your pointer over that. So we are now going to look at checklists. And so checklists, it's a tool that enables you to create checklists so that you can highlight some of the important or required assignments to your students, you know, specific activities that they must complete, that they should definitely complete. So checklists can be accessed in 3 ways. I'm just going to go back to the course homepage. So checklists can be accessed in 3 ways. It's not really on the nav bar. So what you need to do to access a checklist is you have to go to course admin, and that is where you would then access the checklist. You then need to click on course and manage course in order to access course admin, and then click on course admin. That is the first place that you would access your checklist. And then if you look at the list there, you will find the checklist tool. I'm going to click on it. Now in here, I can see all the checklists that I created for the specific course. So I'm going to show you how to create a new checklist. In order to create a new checklist, you click on the new checklist button. You give it a name. I'm going to call this one test 2. You can give a description as well of that checklist. And then you can click on open this checklist in a new window when viewed, which is always ideal because it will show like a little pop-up box with just the checklist for students to engage with. And then save. As soon as you save, there will be more tools that will pop up there. So it will show you categories and items. So what categories are? This would be, for example, like if you want to organize your course, let's say your course is organized in modules or it's organized in weeks, you would use a category. So it allows you to organize your checklist And then under each category, you can then add items such as learning activities or even like or lesson plans or even assignments. That is where you would add those. So the category would be like the overarching, either a module or a week, and then the item would be the specific individual activities that the students would complete. So I'm going to demonstrate that. So I will say this, I'll name this module X and then click on save. But if you have more modules, like you can then click on save and then add another module, like say you have module 1, module 2, then that is how you would do it. So I'm going to create just this one module and then click on save. Then after I've completed that, so this is a checklist test 2. And there is my module X category. Now I need to add an item into this category, and I would do so by clicking on new item. Okay, so you can see that this is falling under module X, and I want my students to complete assignment B. I can give a little description or a little instruction there. Now, the checklist also allows you on Brightspace, it has release conditions. So I can say that this is due on a specific date at this particular time. I can also opt to say this should display on their calendar so that they can have that indication that at a certain day, there is something due. Then I can say save. If you're done adding your items, you can save. But obviously with just one item, I'm just going to add some more. So I'm going to add another item, a learning activity that they need to complete. And I'm going to say they should make sure that they've completed the quiz. And then I am done with my checklist. I'm done adding all my items or learning activities under that category. So I'm then going to save it. And what it will look like is that you'll see that these are my little learning activities, the items that I've added under that module, under module X. Now, there should be an option to, okay, I'm going to save this. You can also preview the checklist to see how it looks. So you can go to that particular checklist and then preview in a new window. And then that is how the students will view that checklist. That's how it will look like. Now you need to then go and add your checklist into a content page or a lesson page. We've created that under, in the checklist tool that we accessed via the course admin tool. So now in order to add your checklist in your, just before we move on, I just want to show that you can also edit your checklist. You can also copy that checklist. You can edit it, and if there's something that you want to amend, or you can just go back and edit that specific checklist. It will give you the same view that we had when we were creating a new one. So in order to now go and add a checklist in a content page, you need to go to content. And then go locate that specific place that you want to add your checklist. So you'll notice that in the Design Studio course, we were adding little checklist links in the modules landing page as we went along. So you need to locate that specific page that you want to add the checklist, which is usually on the modules landing page or the week's landing page. And these, you can see, they are these Brightspace sort of opening folders. So you can then go click on edit, because we want to add that particular checklist that we created in the checklist tool. I want to add my checklist over there, down there below. So then I'm going to click on the link, quick link, insert button, click on checklist, and it will show me a list of all those checklists that I have. And this is the one that I want to add. So then I'll simply click on that checklist and it will be added on the page, at that exact specific location. You can also just create a new one from here by clicking on the link button, checklist, and then down there below, but it's not so visible, there is a create new checklist button. My computer is just, I don't think the big screen is big enough. And then you can then from here create a new checklist. So that is how you can create a checklist and add it into your content page. Another option is to, if you want your checklist to have to be, it's sort of like its own, to have its own page. So for example, you want this here to be a checklist that when students move from this specific page, they should go into the checklist. What you can do is you can simply click on create new and then checklist. Unfortunately, for this one, it won't allow you to go and source an existing one. You would need to create a new checklist if you're using this method. And then this is where you can then create a new checklist. So that is how, those are the 3 ways that you can create a checklist. So it would be, you first go to course admin, create your checklist, and then you add it in as a link into your lesson page or your content page. And then you can also add it as a page into your, like just as a page within your module. So that is how you would then make use of the checklist. I think this brings us to the end of this demo. I'm now going to hand over to Nadine. I don't know if there are any questions at this point, but with the warm welcome that Nadine you gave us, it's only appropriate that you give us a warm goodbye as we exit the webinar. Thank you, everyone.